I chose to interview Adam Sokoloff for the leadership interview because my goals line up very well with his own. I'm very passionate about marketing nonprofit, and so is he. I was able to hear about him through this Jewish Changemakers program that I was participating in last summer, the summer of 2020, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to interview him with this leadership interview for this class. My perception of him during the interview was that he was sitting in his home office. He had books lining the shelves behind him, which showed that he was very knowledgeable. He seemed to be sitting very straight up in his chair and very confident looking, which showed me that he was a self-confident individual. He also seemed to possess a trait of responsibility. He was on time and very prompt for the interview. He was very welcoming, which showed that he was sociable and extroverted. He had like a very big smile on his face when I went on the call, and I could also tell that he had servant leadership abilities because he volunteered his time out of his regular workday and social life to help with the Jewish Changemakers program last summer. So he wanted to use his caring principles and give the students this knowledge that he had and share it with others. So some key leadership characteristics that were discussed during the interview. So what I found was that he really had important values to him, and that's something that resonated with me since I'm a very big values person. He told me that he uses values in the way he leads his everyday life, and that's something that I do as well. I use my values to make almost every decision I do on the daily basis, and that falls under the social judgment skills in the skills model. He also discussed his career experiences, which also falls under the skills model. And he also explained that he's a big people person and likes to interact with his followers, make them very comfortable. And it seemed that he had a balance of relationship and task-oriented behavior from what I could tell. So my perception of the individual as a leader after the interview was that he seemed to be very emotionally intelligent with the things that he was talking about, and it seemed that he had servant leadership, as I mentioned before. He talked a lot about values. He told me that to look at my values and to see the emotional response I got from specific values and passions that I have, which showed me he had did a lot of thinking about emotions, and he was very self-aware himself. Just by asking this of me, for me to think of the values that give me an emotional response, I could tell that he was very self-aware, and I could tell that he was also passionate about nonprofit. That's why he's involved in nonprofit and the Jewish Changemakers, which was why I was saying that it seems as if he uses servant leadership. He's also a very good communicator. I could tell that by the stories that he told me. He would tell me different stories about his work experiences, his life experiences, and it really caught my attention. And the stories are very important in communicating, so I could tell that he uses authentic communication, not just with me, but in leadership settings and his everyday life. Some key statements that he made that aided in my understanding of leadership were that he said, "The world needs people with big dreams and ambitions to lead society and create innovation." He told me to carve out 30 minutes of worries, think about what keeps you grounded and what you're grateful for. So I took that as he is telling me to be in touch with how I feel, and that's also why I thought he's very emotionally intelligent. He said try to have a focused pitch for yourself, which is important as a leader. You have to know where you stand and who you are as a person if you're working with others and leading them. What else? And he said, what else do you have to live for? What is your top priority? So they were just very important statements and thinking questions that made me question my leadership abilities and made me think about where I stand in leadership and how I relate to his leadership abilities and how values based I am. So it made me realize that servant leadership is also very important to me as well.